Welcome to the High School Basketball Podcast. My name is Josh Morse. I'm with East Longmeadow coach Brendan Abad. Welcome.
Thanks for having me.
What makes a great coach?
The first recipe to being a good coach, a good player, in my mind, is care. Like, you got to care about number one, the players. Number two, what you're teaching and coaching. For our instance, is basketball. But also, you got to have a passion and a care just to grow as a leader every day. I'm 29 years old. It's my fifth year coaching in East Longmeadow, and I played in college, played in high school, played since I was a little kid, and I'm always trying to grow as a person, number one, but also as a leader. And I think throughout my life, I've had different phases of growing as a player, but now I'm at that phase where it's continuing to grow as a leader and a coach.
How are you adapting for this coming year?
Looking forward, I've done things differently from my first year to this year. And I'm lucky too, because not too many people who are my age have had varsity jobs. So I feel like I'm kind of ahead of the curve, and I get to fail, learn, and then keep trying new things, right? And the things that have worked out well, we keep on going with that, and things that need adjustments year to year, we make that work as well. I'm a big believer, and I tell our guys all the time that failure is never a destination. It's a motivation. And I think that if you learn that you're going to fail, it's okay. You got to get up, you got to keep going, and instilling that mindset in our staff, our players, and everyone around our program. Even my students, I'm a health teacher at East Longmeadow as well. In order to grow, you got to fail, right? The beauty for me, and the thing that really excites me outside of working with the athletes, is adjusting, adapting, and learning that I don't have all the answers, and I try to pick up something from everyone every single day, whether that's a student, whether that's a co-coach, whether that's an administrator, a teacher, someone I follow on Twitter, yourself. Like it's really fun being part of that process and just trying to grow as everyone's involved, collectively growing, right? I feel like a lot of times coaches say players got to do this to get better, but what are we doing to get better? And I think that's a huge part of just them seeing that they're not the only ones learning. We're learning too, right? We teach them, but they also teach us. I have to constantly adjust my coaching practice and my teaching practice, and really try to communicate those values that are endless, right? The respect, the hard work, accountability in a different way. And I think that's, once again, the fun part of this, is trying to figure out what's going to make the team click.
How do you define the success of your program?
For me, it has nothing to do with wins and losses. As much as we want to win, and our players are competitive, I'm super competitive, our coaches are competitive. That's important, don't get me wrong, but it's all about, in my mind, the process and what you learn through the process. If the product is a bunch of wins, that's great, but the process of learning to adapt, right, we talked about, learning to respect your teammates, your opponents, learning to prepare, and if you don't execute that game plan and you lose the game, it's not the end of the world. Like, you put yourself in a good position to have a chance in the game. Wins are great. I would love to sit up here and tell you that 20-0 would be great, a Western Mass Championship would be great, but it's really about just the process and watching kids grow from day one, to the last day. And that goes with freshmen, sophomores too. Like, we've had sophomores, a freshman on varsity, and you see them grow from day one to their last day of senior year. It's remarkable, and for me, that's the real joy in the process. Having them as students, as athletes, and going to the other games, the other sports they play, going to their club stuff, like that, to me, is the real joy in it, and that's what, in my mind, makes a successful season and a successful experience, high school sports.
You've really been able to connect with your players outside of the game, being a teacher. What are some of the things that you've been able to do from a personal standpoint that perhaps have helped them on the basketball court?
So I think just having that relationship, right, having the opportunity to develop those bonds before the season starts, right, after the season starts, in the off season. I own a summer camp. I do a summer basketball camp. We do fall clinics, spring clinics, and summer stuff. And for me, a lot of those guys work that. So that's another way to connect and just get to know each other. And I think when you have that trust and you have that relationship, it can go through a lot, right? If there's times when maybe someone's not playing well, if they're not playing the minutes they think they deserve, that relationship is a backbone of how do you move forward. And that relationship, in my mind, is just what keeps it going. I think the hardest thing for me is trying to figure out ways to make, people who have different styles of learning fit into the culture you're trying to establish. But once again, that's the fun part, like figuring out what makes this kid tick, what makes this kid tick, and trying to have everyone buy into the system that you're trying to employ. I'm lucky because I have that extra leg where I'm in the school, I get to connect, and I really get to develop some authentic relationships that translate to the court as well.
So you're in a very difficult conference. You were in a build year last year. Mm-hmm. What does this season look like? Give us a preview of the season to come.
You're not going to have a dominant team every year. That's just, unfortunately, that's not how it works, right? But the ability to look back and look at where you were and hopefully use those lessons that you took to go where you're going. So I'm really excited for this year. We have a lot of guys who put a lot of work in the offseason. They have that number one ingredient, they care. They're all really connected. So, I'm really looking forward to getting rolling and seeing what the year has ahead for us. I think we're going to make, some noise. We got, a lot of players who can play a lot of different ways. And I think that's going to help not just us fit into one style, but have the opportunity to play multiple styles of basketball.
So you've got some new leaders that you've developed. How have they brought some of the other guys along this offseason? What's the offseason look like as you head into this year?
Yeah, so one of the things I love the most about leadership, especially with young athletes, is you were the new people, and now you're the old people. For example, we have this one senior who he was on varsity as a sophomore, and he was a captain last year. We anticipate him being captain again this year, and he was like a sponge his sophomore year, absolute sponge. He absorbed what the captains and leaders told him, what they told the group collectively, and he's run with it. And I could see him sophomore year, a lot smaller, a lot skinnier, right? Locked in. We had phenomenal leaders that year. We had a really good year overall that year as well. So he saw the way that things need to happen in order to be where we want to be. And for me to see now him leading the young guys, it's kind of like that transverse moment of, wow, this is what it's about. I'm excited for that group. This year I feel like we'd have a lot more reps. And that starts with just, once again, remembering where you were, where you currently are, where you want to go.
How do you keep a team motivated throughout the year? What are the key ingredients to that process?
I feel like nowadays it's even harder than ever before. We try to find things that are going to motivate our guys, and when I say that, I mean tangible things, right? So, for example, 2 years ago we had this award. It was called the Tighten the Screws Award. So we had a screwdriver, and each practice and after each game, we would give it out to someone who is really tightening the screws, who's trying to get better, who's honing their craft. And that fit that group that year because they had a lot of experience coming back that year. So that really fit the mindset of tighten the screws, let's keep getting better day by day. Last year, we had pretty much a bunch of brand new guys. We had 2 guys return who played heavy varsity minutes, but besides that, we're all brand new. So the tangible device last year was a fake plastic, I want to emphasize plastic, axe. So it was chopping the wood. So after each practice, after each game, someone earned the Chopping the Wood Award. So that's just a way for us as a coaching staff to keep our guys motivated, even in the losses. Having that tangible motivational device in our mind, it helped them keep going and keep looking forward to something. We do something called charge cards. So during a game, when you take a charge, you get a charge card and you're out of a sprint for a practice. You can use your charge card. So those are just ways where we try to really make it fun for the kids, but also make it like authentic to what we're trying to teach them. Right, like we're big into help side defense. Like we want to slide over and take charges. So if you do that, you earned a charge card, right? If you work your butt off in practice, if you keep chopping the wood, you keep tightening the screws, like you've earned that award.
What does leadership look like in your program?
Leadership to me looks like me stepping back and having the leaders conduct the team. At the end of the day, it's not my team, right? I'm not playing. It's not the X's and O's. It's the Jimmys and Joes who really win the games. So having leaders who've been led before, but now they're also leading and having new voices be heard, that's the most powerful thing in my mind, right? Like that's what a true team's about. My job's to facilitate, my job's to inspire. I always say as a teacher and coach, I'm the CEO, Chief Energy Officer. Like I just bring the energy, I want to make them have the energy, but they're the ones who are leading the guys, right? Like if I tell a player something, they may absorb that, but if a teammate tells a player something, they're absorbing that way more. Right, so that connection from me to the leaders and the leaders to their teammates, I think is huge, and that's part of the process. And where I want to get back to. Because last year was a lot more hands-on because we're brand new and we're trying to get the group together. But this year we have a lot of returning guys and a lot of leaders returning. So it's more like, okay, you know the way. Let's have you guys teach the underclassmen, whether it's a drill, whether it's a concept we're trying to teach, whether it's a pregame ritual, whatever it is. Like, have you guys teach the new, and then one day, once again, the new will be the old, and they do the same things.
So you're a Long Meadow guy.
Mm-hmm.
You stayed local in college. You came back. You really have roots within the community.
Mm-hmm.
How does that establish a building block for your program?
So actually, yeah, I went to Long Meadow High, and if I thought that I would be the head coach at East Long Meadow, 15 years ago, I would have said you're out of your mind. But things work out the way it did, and I'm super happy in East Long Meadow. I absolutely love the people, the community. I love being part of the school system. I loved it not just being in the community. I love being a part of the community, right? Whether that's a resource for basketball, whether that's a resource for health ed, whether that's a resource for something in the school or community related. Like, I love having that role in the community. I loved my experience at Long Meadow. They have a great program over there. It's a great town. They have a really good athletics program and a great academic school. But I'm trying to establish, what we want in East Long Meadow, right? We're different towns. Although people think, from Boston, people think they're the same towns. They're very different. So I absolutely love being in the Western Mass community. Even my camps, it's not just East Long Meadow people. I know it's called Spartan Basketball School, but we have Long Meadow, we have Ludlow, we have Wilbraham, we have some Connecticut people come. So we have people from all over the area come, which is cool for me because it's a way for me to give back. Because I've had great coaches my whole life. I've had great teachers, and for me now to give back and be in that same role that they were for me, it's in my mind, it's the most rewarding thing you can do in life is be an educator, be a leader, and try to help inspire the next generation.
You had a great high school coach, great college coach. You're also a player. What are some of the learnings from that you bring? What are some specific things that you bring into your current position?
Yeah, so I would say that, as you know, high school and college are very different, right? Like, out of college, I was an assistant coach at East Long Meadow, and I wanted to do this, but it's a lot different of a game. Just like the program's different than the college game, college is way different than high school. So you kind of have to simplify it to its basic form and then go from there and have a couple core concepts and just hammer those home. And it's funny because I say the same thing, but I say it 100 different times, different ways. But it's the same concept, defend, rebound, share the ball, take care of the ball, take high quality shots, be a good teammate, have good attitude, give tremendous effort. Like, those sort of concepts we hammer home, but a bunch of different ways. It all ties back to that same thing. So I had a great experience in high school playing. I had a phenomenal experience playing in college at Spring for College for Coach Charlie Brock. I learned a ton from him. And I'm still very close to him to this day. And he's a person who really taught me, how to be accountable for your actions, how to buy into a team atmosphere, and just what it takes to be successful, right? And those lessons, those teammates I had, the lifelong friends, and those are relationships and memories through playing in high school, playing in college, I'll never forget. So I think having that fresh in my mind and being a coach, I can remember what it's like being 15, 16 years old, right? Some days basketball's not the only thing on your mind, right? Maybe you're going through a rough patch in your relationship. Maybe something's going on at home. Maybe you're not having a good day because you had a bad test score, right? Like, things happen. It's high school athletics. They're also, number one, humans, but they're also students too who are going through a lot of stuff, especially nowadays.
How do you define culture? What makes your program a little bit different?
Culture is you walk into a gym and you just feel something right away. Like, practice atmosphere, you feel something right away. Bench culture, someone scores, they're up. Like, you just feel something right away. So I know it's a buzzword and there's a lot of different ways to define it, but every team has a culture, whether you want to think you do or not. And you're creating that culture on purpose, intentionally, I think in my mind, it's just what you kind of tolerate, right, and what you accept. I'm a person who, if I see something a little off, I'm going to address it, individually or collectively. And I think that's a way where everyone understands what our goal is and what our mission is. And if you let those things go through the crack, then your culture is not going to be strong. That foundation is not going to be strong. So in my mind, right, yes, I'm the head coach, but it's not my program. I'm just like the caregiver of the culture, and I try to establish a culture, and the players lead that culture, and they live that culture. And that's what I strive to do, every single year. And it's a strong culture when you see it. And it's not a strong culture, you also know that as well. So as a leader, I think that is your number one priority is establishing your culture and protecting that culture at all costs.
You obviously have to establish roles for your team, for the players on your team. How do you establish those roles? Is one ball amongst 5 guys on the floor and 11, 12 on your basketball team? How do you establish those roles, and how do you meld all of those players together to achieve one objective?
So I think role identification, right? What are the roles that we can all fill is number one, and then role definition, right? How are we going to communicate those roles to our guys and have them buy in? Because if I was a player and I was told, maybe your role right now is limited, you may get, 6 minutes a game. Like, can I get excited about that? I don't know. But if you phrase it the right way and you tie it back to, we need you to do this, this is so important, you're as important as the first guy, right? Like a feature role guy is just as important as a guy who's, playing limited minutes. Like, if that's communicated the right way, I think it's really powerful. And the good teams, as you know, Coach, like they have people who buy in from 1 to however many guys you have on the end of the bench. One example is my third year. So we came off my second year. We came off a very good season. It was a COVID season, unfortunately. We were 8-2. I thought we were one of the best teams in Western Mass. So that season to me always haunts me because I think we could have made a deep playoff run. But the following year, we had one player, Super 7 player, Ray Carter, who he's playing at Anna Maria, really high level player. He was the feature role, right? He was the lead singer, but everyone around him knew their role. We had, one kid named Wainwright, a shooter, a rebounder, a toughness guy. Eric Donaldson, who's playing at UMass Boston, 6'5", great in the boards, alter shots, high energy guy, moves his feet well. Like, they all knew their role, right? They all knew their role. And you're not going to have every year where you have a Ray Carter who's filling a high production offensive or defensive role. That's very rare to find. So you need guys to fill that role, but you need multiple guys to fill that role. This year, we have that mindset where guys need to understand that everyone needs to be involved and everyone's got to fill a role for us to be successful.
Recruiting nowadays is sort of a different animal than it has been in the past. For those that you deem truly college ready or potentially college ready or recruitable, what's your engagement with the player? And how do you facilitate that process for them?
You got to be good enough to play in college because basketball is the most competitive sport in the world. You have people from overseas, Division 1, 2, 3, no matter what division it is super competitive. And I tell guys too, I want to help you find a place, but also I'm going to be realistic with you and tell you how competitive it is. One of the guys we've had recruited the most was this 6'9" kid named Eddie Abel Gabadia. Probably averaged 4 points a game, but he was 6'9". So basketball, as you know, is a size game. I'm also very fortunate. I have a lot of friends who coach in college, whether they're assistant coaches, head coaches, even the prep school ranks. So I'm connected to that end. But also, I'm realistic. Like, if a guy thinks he could play Division 1, Division 2, well, you better be very, very good. The Division 3 level, the JUCO level, we definitely have that conversation early on. If there's a kid I identify that number one wants to play in college because it's a huge commitment, but also second, is good enough to do it. We have those conversations. We have a game plan where the schools that you're interested in, and it can't just be a basketball first mindset. It's got to be, what do you want to do when you get older mindset? And then from there, does the school feel right for you? And then also, do you have the opportunity to play basketball? So if all of those pieces come into play, I think it's a really good fit for the person. We do have some guys who want to play the next level, and we have conversations, probably once every couple of weeks about, hey, have you talked to this coach? Have you reached out to this coach? Have you, done this film clip up? Have you done this? Like, that stuff matters. And my job as a high school coach is not to tell a kid they can't play at the college level. It's to see if they, number one, if they can, and also try to find them a fit, whether it's, a low major Division 3 school, a mid-major, D2 school, whatever the case may be. It's my job to try to find them a home if that's what they want to do and they're good enough.
How do you coach through all parts of the season?
You got to keep having energy, keep being positive, and keep having the leaders, sell your stuff and be positive. It can't just be, poor us, we lost this game by 2 points, we lost this game by 3 points, we keep losing by under 5. Like, it can't be a pity party. You gotta move forward and keep going. One thing we always tell our guys at the beginning of practice and end of practice is, our goal today is to become closer as a team and to get better. And once again, having that mindset of, this is all we have right now, this practice ahead. We can't look forward to the game. We got to focus on this practice. Then we have to focus on this game. We can't look forward to our rivalry game in a month. It's got to be right now, let's get better, let's get closer as a team, and let's go from there. Be where your feet are, like this practice, let's get better. Let's utilize this. Let's not look forward. Let's get better here. There's obviously phases of the year, as you know. You have the honeymoon phase, right? Everyone's new. It's brand new. Good vibes all around. Then a couple of losses happen. Adversity happens. What are you really made of? So that's when you need your leadership to be sound on all ends. From the coaching standpoints, from the captain standpoints, it's got to be complete buy-in, not just buy-in when things are going well. It's got to be unconditional buy-in through the highs, through the lows. That's when you know you have a special team in my mind.
As you coach your players and you have a little bit more leadership, it's their team. What's your expectation from them during the game in terms of the leadership actual in-game? Is there any communication from players in timeouts at halftime? How do you balance that as a coach versus your players as leaders?
We usually designate a leader or captain, someone to say something in the huddle. Then we come in and we kind of couple quick points and then let's move on here. Whether it's reflecting on what just happened and how do we move on, or keep the positive reinforcement up because something just went well and what's next, or making adjustments. I think it's really important that a leader talks before and they get their voice out. Before games, after games, during debriefing of drills or practice, we have guys talk. What do we need to do better? What's one thing your teammate did well that you want to point out? Like, I'm big into that. Like, highlight this guy. He's had a great practice. What did you do well? And let's praise him for that, right? No matter if you're the first guy or the 12th guy, like 12th guys need to get rewarded as well. They need to feel appreciated as well.
Is there anything that you look ahead to and say, if we can do these things real well, maybe it's a team, maybe it's just how you play collectively. How do you gauge that?
We have 5 key principles that we want to do, right? Defend, rebound, share the ball, secure the ball, and then take high quality shots. Our goal is to be the best team that we can be in February, not in December. So there's going to be hiccups, and I think this year there'll be less hiccups early on just because we have a lot of returning guys who know what those hiccups are like, and that lived experiences are so important, Coach, as you know. Having those moments of failure, you're now able to reflect and be like, okay, we've been through that. Now it's our time to go. We played the Conic early on, and they're state champs last year. Coach Chafee's a phenomenal coach. He's one of the guys I really look up to as a coach in Western Mass. So if we could, compete with them and pull it out, I think that would be a great start. Pittsfield's always great as well. So we have some tough matchups early on, but we're going to be ready.
How would you describe the level of competition that you face every night?
Your opponents are to give you their best shot, and hopefully we punch back and give them our best shot. And if you're not ready to play, you're going to get exposed quick.
You also mentioned some other prep school coaches or other high school coaches. You ever give those guys a call during the year and just kind of, compare notes?
I compare notes all the time, and I feel like I'm the annoying one who's always calling or texting buddies and saying, hey, what do you think about this drill, or what do you think about this concept, or, do you think guys are buying into this? Like, I'm always doing that, but I think that just goes to show that, you need to have that eagerness. You need to have that willingness to learn on all parties. Like, players got to learn, but also we have to learn as well. So I'm fortunate. I have friends at all levels, and I respect the heck out of them because they're doing great things, right? They have great programs. I feel very fortunate to have those connections that I have. I want to coach 10 different years, and that's all about adjusting, reflecting, and modifying.
Once the season's over and you've evaluated that, what's the message to the team moving forward?
In season's role definition. You have to understand your role and accept your role and perfect your role. And if it changed throughout the year, for better or worse, like, you have to be able to be ready to go if it improves. If you're getting more minutes, you got to be ready to go, be locked in, know our sets, know what we're doing defensively. But also, if it decreases, you have to know that you got to keep fighting to get those minutes back. Because if everyone's competing, then that makes the whole team and the whole program better. At a season, in my mind, a big time to change your role, right? How do you enhance your role? How do you work on skill development? How do you work on your ball handling, your shooting, your passing, your footwork? That's where we really challenge guys. Like, hey, we need you to get better at this in order for us to be here. And guys have run with that. They play competitive AU basketball. They ask questions to coaches. Like, they want to get better. And that's, for me, like, when you have guys who care, who want to get better, what more can you ask for?
Describe the role of your assistant coach. How do you work with that assistant coach, and how does that assistant coach work with the players?
One thing that I'm super proud of is we're super connected, like extremely well connected. Having that ability just to have that family atmosphere from the top down, it shows the players that, wow, these guys have each other's backs, right? They're loyal. Like, that's what bleeds down to the bottom. Every coach in our program's got a different role. And once again, I have weaknesses. I understand that. They have weaknesses. They understand that. But we all fill the gaps in very well. I've been lucky as heck to have so many great coaches around me that help me as a leader, but also as a person. Like, I have coaches who have kids. I don't have kids yet. I would love to have a family one day. And, they give me advice, right? Like father advice, things that you shouldn't do advice. Like, that stuff to me is why I do this stuff. Like, having those authentic connections and those relationships.
What are you thinking about? Like, what's going through your mind right now?
If I'm over-prepared, I can sleep at night. If I feel like if I'm underprepared, or, I don't have this ATO, or I don't have, something that I need, like, I'll go crazy. I won't sleep. This time of year, it's fine-tuning a couple things, but also getting ready to go, like getting the energy up, getting the positive vibes going, and just having that chief energy officer role, like in the school, just being like, guys, like, we're almost there. Let's get ready to go. Keep putting the work in. It's coming soon. Practice one. Doing this podcast. It's feeling real, right? It's feeling real. It's coming soon.
You're still a college basketball viewer, or you're an NBA guy?
I absolutely love college.
Probably college more applicable to some of the things that you're running.
NBA is just so many guys are great at creating their shots, as you know, and we don't have guys who can step back and shoot 35-footers. That's just, I would love to have guys like that, but that doesn't happen. I think college is way more applicable, and I wish more kids and young players actually watch more college games because there's way more spacing, way better defense. I think the college game, the high school game, although it's very different, it is very relatable. And yeah, you can't do 3 or 4 different actions in your set, but maybe you can do 1 or 2 quick actions and have that same end goal be whatever you're trying to accomplish. So in my mind, it's very transferable. I take a lot of our stuff we do, and it's from college, right? But once again, I simplify.
Is there any specific program that you kind of take more of, or philosophically more from, than another?
I have appreciation for all programs. Like, one of our pillars of our program is play hard, play smart, play together, and that's the Dean Smith UNC mindset. If you asked me when I was 5 years old if that would be my mindset as a coach, I would say, no way, I'm not doing anything UNC does. But that just goes to show that you have to be open to different ideas. I love Duke, right? I love UConn, I love UMass, I love all those programs, but I think I look at more high school quality programs, and I'm like, I want to do that. Like, that's something I could transfer to my program. One of my good friends, Trey Witter, he's an assistant coach at Trinity, and his dad's a longtime coach at Farmington. He's won a state championship, and he's a guy who I talk to a lot, just about concepts, philosophies, and he's a guy who's been around the block, but also I trust to death. And he's a guy I pick his brain a lot, and I try to do things in his program that, what can I take into my program? Trinity College versus East Long Meadow High School, a little different, but concepts and principles can apply.
Predictions for the Celtics this year? Are they championship material or not?
Their depth is definitely depleted a little bit, but their star power is the best it's been since Tatum and Brown have been there in my mind. I think they'll have a good playoff run. I would be shocked if it wasn't them versus the Bucks. Even out west, there's a lot of competitive teams. Who can stay healthy, right? And who is going to take it, right? Who's going to take it? Who's going to be the Denver Nuggets and be kind of slept on, and then, wow, this team's unbeatable. Like, who's going to be that team this year? We'll see what happens.
What about the Hoop Hall Classic? I'm sure that you have a lot of experience with that and seen a lot of great teams, a lot of great players.
Funny you mentioned that, because I played in as a player at Long Meadow as a player, and I played against East Long Meadow at the Hoop Hall. I went to Springbrook College, played there, so during MLK weekend, it was completely redone. The court was completely redone. You had logos. You had this beautiful facility. We're like, whoa, like, this transformed like this, So going into it as a player, then seeing the event as a college athlete, and then 2 years ago, we played in the event against Long Meadow. So that was kind of like a full circle moment for me. We're playing against Long Meadow. My college coach is in the stand watching, and we beat them, which after that game, I mean, all wins feel great, don't get me wrong, but that win was like, this is like a full circle moment. This is pretty cool. And the kids love that event because you feel like you're a rock star. I mean, you get these swag bags, you get fed well, you get to see these big time players you're playing in the same event with. Like, it's a story you tell forever.
Yeah, the Hoop Hall Classic has been a monumental event, and it keeps building every single year. It's been great to talk with you. You've done a phenomenal job. You're a leader. You're a mentor. You create a great culture. You have a super philosophy. You're very specific in terms of what you're looking for from your players. That is really a recipe for success. So really appreciate you coming on our program, and wish you the best moving forward.
Thanks for having me, Coach. Yeah, appreciate you doing this.